There are places you'll never find on a map, places made of thoughts, emotions, and memories. Carl Jung, one of the great minds of modern psychology, didn't just warn us about enemies out in the world. He spoke about the landscapes inside of us that quietly erode who we are. These places aren't just bad habits or personality quirks. They're inner states where we lose clarity, self-respect, and direction. Jung believed pain could lead to growth, but he also knew there are kinds of pain that spiral into self-destruction. Here are 7 places your soul should never stay too long. 1. The house of denial, where the shadow is ignored. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That unconscious part, it's the shadow. Not some evil force, but all the parts of you you'd rather not deal with. Jealousy, fear, trauma, even hidden talents. Denial is more than ignoring truth. It's rejecting pieces of yourself that don't fit your idea of who you want to be. But here's the trap. If you don't face the shadow, it takes control. You'll find yourself snapping in anger you don't understand, sabotaging relationships, projecting your pain onto others. You'll feel like life keeps repeating itself. Same failures, same heartbreaks. Not because the world's against you, but because a part of you you're ignoring is running the show. Denial feels comfortable because it lets you avoid pain, but it's a trap. Jung taught that true strength starts with honesty, with admitting you're not always the person you pretend to be. Integrating your shadow isn't about being perfect, it's about becoming whole. So when jealousy shows up, don't stuff it down. Ask where it's coming from. When rage bubbles up, listen before it explodes. Once you face your shadow, it loses its grip. But if you ignore it, it waits. And when the time is right, it acts. And it won't ask for permission. 2. The swamp of resentment, where pain becomes poison. Jung believed pain could shape you, but only if you face it. If you bury it, deny it, or relive it without reflection, that pain curdles into resentment. Resentment is pain that's turned toxic. It's the voice that says they'll regret what they did, or this always happens to me. It keeps old wounds fresh and identity stuck. It doesn't punish those who hurt you, it punishes you. You start guarding your heart, distrusting others, building walls so high no one can reach you. Eventually, you might even become the thing you once hated, bitter, guarded, harsh. Resentment often disguises itself as justice, but Jung saw that as a trick of the shadow. Anger, if it's unexamined, becomes a chain. Forgiveness, in Jung's view, isn't about letting someone else off the hook. It's how you free yourself. You're not saying what happened was okay, you're just refusing to let it poison your future. Transformation begins when you stop feeding the story of betrayal and start asking, what did this teach me? Maybe it taught you boundaries. Maybe it taught you self-worth. That's emotional alchemy, turning pain into something useful. So, if you're stuck in resentment, ask yourself, are you healing? Or just hoping the pain will somehow redeem itself? Don't let the swamp fool you. Stillness isn't peace if it's keeping you stuck. 3. The prison of shame, where the self is condemned. There's a difference between guilt and shame. Guilt says, I did something wrong. Shame says, I am something wrong. And Jung saw shame as one of the most dangerous things a person can carry. Not because it's loud, but because it hides. It whispers in the background that you're not enough. People who live in shame often seem high-functioning, successful, polite, even admired. But inside, they feel broken. Nothing is ever enough. They don't feel worthy of love, even when they receive it. That's the real tragedy of shame. It cuts you off from your own soul. It tells you you have to become someone else just to be accepted. Jung never encouraged pretending you've done no wrong, but he warned against staying in a cycle of punishment forever. Guilt, if it teaches you something, leads to growth. But shame just keeps you stuck. Ask yourself, who made you believe you weren't enough? Was it a parent? A religion? A moment where someone else failed you and you took the blame? You don't need to erase your past. You just don't need to let it define your worth. Your mistakes are not your identity. Your soul wasn't made to live in a cell of constant self-judgment. It was made for growth, for freedom, for wholeness. Jung believed you become whole when you can look in the mirror and offer yourself compassion, not just when you're winning, but especially when you're not. 4. The theater of persona, where you abandon who you really are. Jung called it the persona, the social mask we all wear. It's not fake, it's necessary. We use it to fit into society, to navigate different situations. But the danger comes when we forget it's a mask, when the performance becomes identity, when you smile while your heart breaks, when you agree just to keep the peace, when you lose your voice, your desires, your pain, just to stay liked. Over time, your real self doesn't just go quiet, it disappears. And what's left is exhaustion, numbness, and confusion. Not because life is meaningless, but because you're not living your life. Authenticity feels risky, especially if you're used to hiding. But Jung taught that wholeness only comes when you start asking, who am I when I stop pretending? You don't have to rebel against society. You just have to stop betraying yourself. Start with small things, speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. Say no, even if it disappoints someone. Honor what you feel, not just what others expect. Because no matter how admired your mask is, if it's not your truth, it won't feel like love. It'll feel like loneliness. 5. The labyrinth of overthinking, where the mind becomes a trap. Your mind is powerful, but left unchecked, it becomes a maze. Jung warned that when the mind detaches from the deeper self, intuition, emotion, spirit, it traps you in loops, thought spirals that don't lead anywhere. You start believing you can think your way out of pain, that if you just analyze enough, plan more, or revisit the past from every angle, you'll finally get relief. But it doesn't come. The more you think, the more distant clarity becomes. Overthinking gives you the illusion of control, but underneath it, fear. You're afraid to feel, to act, to trust. You're hoping logic will protect you from pain, but the mind isn't meant to carry the full weight of the soul. Jung believed in the power of the irrational, not in a chaotic sense, but in the symbolic, intuitive sense. The soul speaks in images, symbols, and metaphor. It's not interested in solving life. It wants to experience life. But overthinking drowns out the voice of the heart, numbs your body's wisdom, and silences your instincts. You become paralyzed, unable to decide, act, or move forward. Jung would say, stop thinking and start living. Feel, trust your gut. Make a choice and let life teach you the rest. Stop trying to solve the past or predict the future, and return to the only place you have any power, now. Wisdom isn't found in endless thinking. It's found in knowing when to stop. 6. The desert of isolation, where connection is feared. Jung knew what we're all learning now. Healing doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens through relationship. But when we're wounded, we retreat. We isolate, not just physically, but emotionally. We tell ourselves we don't need anyone, that people are the problem, that it's better to be alone. And at first, it feels empowering. No drama, no disappointment, no rejection. But slowly, that quiet becomes a prison. What once felt like peace turns into loneliness. And it's not just other people we're avoiding, it's the parts of ourselves we're afraid someone might see. Vulnerability starts to feel dangerous. We become overly independent, hyper-guarded, and deeply distrustful of closeness. But Jung reminds us, just as we're wounded in relationship, we also heal in relationship. Shadow work, inner work, self-reflection, all of that is powerful. But we don't fully become human until we can stand in front of someone else and say, this is me, flawed, real, still worthy of love. Staying isolated means never getting that mirror, never getting the chance to see yourself reflected in another's acceptance. Connection hurts sometimes, yes, but it's also how we experience joy, growth, and belonging, and the soul wasn't made to survive alone. It was made to belong. 7. The graveyard of the past, where the present is forgotten. The final place Jung warned us about is one we all visit from time to time, the graveyard of the past. It's where we go when we can't let go, of regret, grief, nostalgia, old identities, or people we've lost. This place feels sacred, even romantic. There's a strange comfort in mourning what was, but if we stay too long, we become like ghosts, replaying the same heartbreak, revisiting old wounds, trying to relive what's already gone. We start saying things like, if only I'd done this differently, or those were the best years of my life. But that focus backwards steals life from what's here, now. The present fades into background noise. The opportunities in front of you are missed, not because they're not there, but because your eyes are fixed on a time that no longer exists. Jung taught that healing is always available, but only in the present, not in reliving the past, but in learning from it. Letting go isn't forgetting. It's saying, that chapter mattered. It shaped me. But it's not where I live anymore. You don't just grieve people. You grieve old versions of yourself. And sometimes, the most powerful healing is giving yourself permission to evolve, to stop being who you were and become who you are. The past can offer wisdom, but it can't offer life. Life happens now, and your soul is always calling you forward. Conclusion: choose where you live. Each of these inner landscapes, the house of denial, the swamp of resentment, the prison of shame, the theater of persona, the labyrinth of overthinking, the desert of isolation, and the graveyard of the past, they all offer comfort at first. They promise safety, understanding, control. But stay too long, and they start to take from you. They steal your energy, your time, your peace. Jung never said the journey to wholeness would be easy, but he did say it was necessary. Your soul wasn't meant to live in fear or regret. It was meant to grow, to breathe, to connect, to love, to become. So, if you find yourself dwelling in any of these places, recognize it and then make the decision to leave. Not all at once, not perfectly, but intentionally. You don't need to have it all figured out to take the first step. You just need to move, because life doesn't wait for perfection. It waits for presence, or call to action, reclaim your inner world. So now that you know the 7 places the soul should never dwell, the question is, which one have you been calling home? Have you been hiding behind denial, pretending the things that hurt you don't exist? Living in resentment, hoping your pain proves a point? Trapped in shame, believing you're broken beyond repair? Playing a role that's nothing like the real you? Overthinking everything to avoid feeling anything? Keeping everyone at a distance because it's safer? Or clinging so tightly to the past that you've forgotten how to live now? If any of this feels uncomfortably familiar, that's not a reason to beat yourself up. It's a wake-up call. Jung didn't share these ideas to make us feel small. He shared them to show us where we've lost ourselves and how we can come back. This isn't about fixing everything overnight. You don't heal by force. You heal by honesty. You don't become whole by pretending. You become whole by confronting what's real, what's raw, what's been waiting for your attention for years, maybe decades. Start small. Maybe today you speak a truth you've been avoiding. Maybe you finally forgive someone, not for them, but for your own peace. Maybe you let yourself cry and don't apologize for it. Maybe you say no. Or maybe you just sit with yourself, not to judge, not to fix, but to understand. That's how it starts. Jung's path of individuation isn't a quick journey. It's a lifelong unfolding, a steady process of integrating the parts you've abandoned, the parts you've hated, the parts you've ignored. And the reward? It's not perfection. It's freedom. It's the quiet peace that comes from knowing you are real. Not a mask, not a role, not someone else's version of success. You. You'll still hurt sometimes, you'll still fall, but you won't get lost so easily. Because when you live in truth, even pain becomes meaningful. Even mistakes become teachers. Even fear becomes a guide. So don't wait for the perfect moment to start this work. Start now. Start while you're still unsure, while you still have doubts, while you still feel broken. And if you ever forget why this work matters, just remember this. Your soul isn't here to survive. It's here to become, to grow, to awaken, to come alive. And you don't have to do it alone. We're all walking through the same inner landscapes, all trying to leave behind the places that once kept us safe, but now keep us small. So take that first step. Leave the places that shrink you and walk boldly toward the ones that set you free.